Another big human committed to the 40 acres, but this one is bigger than most, like 6'7", 345 pounds big. Yeah.
You are Locked On Longhorns, your daily podcast on the Texas Longhorns. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Longhorns, the show. Jonathan Davis and Lacey Butler, your host. Today's episode of Locked On Longhorns brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com/locked on to get started. Not a full episode today. You know what I mean? We already did that earlier. Just a little, bonus episode here talking about Nick Brooks, right? 6'7", 345 pounds, the newest member or the 40 acres. All of that and more on today's bonus episode of Locked On Longhorns, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So once again, I don't want to bury the lead. I don't think you can bury the lead with how big this dude is. Nick Brooks, offensive tackle, 6'7", 345 pounds, out of Loganville, Georgia, now committed to the 40 acres, this newest member of the 2025 recruiting class for the Texas Longhorns, ranked 180th in the country nationally on the 24/7 Sports Composite. Always good when you can get those top 200 prospects in the country to the 40 acres. Number 19 offensive tackle prospect in the nation, right? Every team has two of them, right? So number 19 is really, really good. And when you look at the commitment of Nick Brooks, his commitment moves the Longhorns up to the number 12 class in the country, according to 24/7 Sports. We were sitting at number 14 prior to the commitment. His commitment moves us up to number 12, and there's still some priority targets to come off the board in August and closer to December that should ultimately, push the Longhorns up into the top 5 for, I think, the third or fourth consecutive season under Steve Sarkisian. When you look at Nick Brooks, once again, 6'7", 345 pounds, right? Like, there's big humans, and then there's Nick Brooks. He is a big, big dude, right? Huge prospect that has shown an ability in high school to play both tackle positions. I think, coming to the next level in college probably projects, more on that right side. Kind of reminds me a lot of Cam Williams, right? Where, in high school, it didn't matter where you put him, right? Because, 6'6", 6'7", 345, 350, that's going to dominate anywhere on the offensive line, right? But when you look at it, he's still kind of learning how to, be nimble and move with all of that size, and, how to keep his feet under him, and, how not to lean, too far forward, and, everything like that. So dominant run blocker already, but it's going to take him time, especially at the college level when you're playing against, these quick super athletes at the edge position to really, turn into a refined pass blocker. So, in high school, showing the ability to play left tackle and right tackle, probably projects right now, at least, as a better right tackle at the next level in the college game, but, has that versatility, right? And that's something that Kyle Flood loves. He always talks about just putting the 5 best offensive linemen on the field. Nick Brooks certainly has that potential. Can flat out overwhelm you in the running game. Imagine 6'7", 345 pounds coming at you. You're going to make a lot of business decisions, right? And he's just coming downhill with a nasty, mean streak, right? He's not just, securing his block, right? He's not just opening up holes. He's pancaking dudes. He's finishing dudes. He's putting dudes in the dirt, demolishing them, right? And you want to see a guy with that size use it to his advantage, right? He's going to be bigger than everybody he's blocking, right? The only way you're going to get around him is just to be quicker than him, right? But you're not going to go through him, right? So a big dude that could step in right away and be an asset to our running game, right? Because like I said, 6'7", 345 pounds with the ability to move, he's just demolishing dudes, right? Has a really strong punch, really strong hands, really good hand placement for a young player going into his senior year. But like I said, somebody that can just flat out dominate in the run game, and somebody that flats out puts people on their ass in the run game. Once again, nasty and finishes blocks, right? Like I said, not just, opening up the hole, but putting dudes in the dirt. Does a really good job of moving for his size, right? You would expect somebody 6'7", 345 pounds to run a 6-something 40 and just be super slow, right? But he has really good movement skills, can get to that second level, can get down the field. You can even use him as a run blocker, right? Depending on a lead blocker, excuse me. Obviously going to use him as a run blocker, but use him as a lead blocker in terms of coming around the edge or, running right behind him and him getting down the field to that second level. Also on screen passes, right? He has that athleticism. If you want to use him as the lead in the screen, he can get downfield and you can really bust some of those big plays in the passing game on those screens. So 6'7", 345, don't get it twisted. He moves a lot better than a lot of players his size. He moves better than a lot of players that are 280, 290, right? He's a gifted athlete at that size, right? And he has the athleticism and footwork to really develop into a solid pass blocker at the college level. That's where the projection comes here, right? Right now, he's a really good run blocker and a really solid pass blocker for a high school player, right? But eventually you need him to be a really strong pass blocker at the college level. And that's what kind of reminds me of Cam Williams, right? When he came out of Duncanville, he was a physical specimen, but you weren't ready to put him out there as a pass blocker, right? But he was able to sit behind Christian Jones for a few years. And now going into his junior season, we've heard about his movement skills and how he's been able to stay in some of our really athletic edges at the 40 acres. I think, with this year, his senior year of high school, and then a few years of development, at the 40 acres, Nick Brooks could turn into that same type of prospect, right? Still a huge dude that could just maul people in the run game. But like I said, a few years of development could really turn into a solid pass blocker at the 40 acres, and then a top, offensive tackle prospect, going into the NFL draft whenever he decides to declare at 6'7", 345, showing the ability to do both things at a high level, block in the run game and also protect the quarterback on the right side or left side, depending on what happens in terms of recruitment at the 40 acres on that offensive line. Another thing it does, it helps mitigate the loss of Michael Fasusi, right? We just lost a 5-star, number 12 overall player in the country, according to the 24/7 Sports Composite, to Oklahoma yesterday, right? But you bring in still one of the top tackles in the country, top 200 player, top 20, number 19 at his position. And so obviously, you'd hope you could get both, right? And you want a really talented player in state like Michael Fasusi, but the ability to go into the state of Georgia, a player originally from Iowa that was committed to Iowa and then decommitted, to go into the state of Georgia and be able to get Nick Brooks, once again, 6'7", 345, and bring him all the way to the 40 acres to play SEC football is a really good look. Like I said, it doesn't just completely absolve the loss of Michael Fasusi, but it helps mitigate it a little bit because you're still bringing in really good tackle talent at that position. And who knows, right? With his potential, with his size, Nick Brooks could ultimately be better than Michael Fasusi at the next level. And then the last thing, it fits the mold of offensive linemen that have been brought in under Kyle Flood. I think the average size of the offensive linemen we've been bringing in under Kyle Flood, since 2021 is about 6'4", 6'5", and about 320 pounds, right? Well, he trumps this on both levels at 6'7", 345 pounds. But Kyle Flood, has always said, and his track record shows, just bring me the big guys and I'll make them great, right? Bring me the biggest guys out of high school and I'll make them great. And Nick Brooks is probably the next example of that. Like I said, he reminds me a ton of Cam Williams coming out of high school. And I think he can be a Cam Williams level player at the 40 acres. Really excited to see Cam this year. And I think Nick Brooks eventually will be a starter at right tackle at the 40 acres. So huge get for the Texas Longhorns, like I said, especially after the loss of Michael Fasusi last year, now with the number 12 overall class in the country, according to 24/7 Sports. And we know Sark, right? This is when he heats up in terms of recruiting, right? This is when he really starts to get it going. And I expect these dominoes to continue to fall. And once again, we know top 5 Sark is going to find a way to end up with this 2025 class in the top 5. And all that worrying we've been doing, all that criticizing we've been doing, I'm talking to me, right? I just got on him yesterday. We'll realize, right, he's a lot smarter than we all think he is, right? Thank you for tuning in to a bonus episode of Locked On Longhorns. Huge get in Nick Brooks for the 40 acres. Once again, enjoy your weekend. Welcome. Peace.